Okay, so with that, I think we have a guest on. Go ahead and bring them on here. And we are talking to them about an event coming up in the next couple of weeks. Let's make sure that they're plugged in. Can you hear us?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on and talk to us and folks out in the community about what you're putting together.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of preface it. If you could just real quick introduce yourself to the folks at home, just like name, pronoun, and either an organization with you're with, or just what you do in the community. You know, more broadly.
Yeah, hi. My name is Vivian Thompson. Pronouns are she, her, and I am a local organizer, and I predominantly do work with our local Kalamazoo chapter of Food Not Bombs.
All right, fantastic. So you've got an event coming up. There's an event coming up in a couple of weeks. I believe it's June. What is it, 12th or?
It's the 12th. Yep.
Yep. And it's the People's Pride. So I'll just kind of this open-ended question. So it's a Pride celebration, and I'm just gonna leave this to you to paint it out. So like, how is this event different from like a typical Pride event, and what inspired y'all to put the event together?
Well, we're approaching it from a specifically anti-capitalist and abolitionist perspective. And we really want to eschew and push against the kind of culturally ingrained idea of pride as a corporate product that it's really become over the last several decades. I mean, you go to a typical pride event and it's used as a way to push advertising by local companies, and the whole thing is just a highly commercialized product. And so our goal is to push against that, to create something a little more grassroots, a little more organic, and to not, and to like, it's going to be, the event is going to be fun, hopefully, but we still want to pay respect and homage to the fact that pride at its core is a protest, which has been completely sanitized from mainstream pride events.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So, I assume kind of we're taking of like, the history of Stonewall, things like that. This is a very interesting year. Last year we didn't have like a Pride Fest, and this year, depending on like COVID restrictions across the country, these things pop up. So, kind of having it, there wasn't, the official one going on this year. There's Hopeville. So. I was wondering if you maybe talk a little bit more about like, why is it critical, you think, to get that history out there to talk about like, the roots of pride is kind of like this, anti-establishment protest.
For me personally, and I guess I'm going to be speaking a little bit to my personal experiences here that other people might not necessarily agree with, but to me, queer is not just a personal identity, it is a political identity. And there, in my opinion, there can be no queer liberation without anti-capitalist liberation, without other forms of social justice. It like these issues are so tied to class, and like you, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be eloquent here. But I think ultimately, like, we need to pay respect to the people who got us where we're at, which is, primarily queer people of color in organizing spaces, who have come before us. And like, I mean, I, as a white trans woman, would not be able to walk down the street with the level of impunity that I have if it was not for the labor of other marginalized activists who have come before me, And I think it's really important to build an intersectional understanding in queer spaces, and to recognize that all oppression is interlinked, and all oppression is, capitalism is complicit in all oppression, and all oppression is complicit in capitalism, you know? And so approaching a pride event from an anti-capitalist and abolitionist standpoint, I think, is extremely important, especially to set an example to a lot of younger LGBTQ people whose experiences with being gay or being queer are mostly coming from the internet, you know? And when your entire understanding of queer identity comes from platforms that are run by massive corporations, there needs to be serious pushback from within our communities to like provide a different perspective on what it means to be queer, because so much of that is being filtered through a corporate lens right now, and we've become a highly profitable marketing demographic, and that's something that we really need to push back against in the community.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't agree more. And I wanted to kind of zoom in. You touching on some of these really critical kind of issues, but I think like especially the context of 2021. We were just doing a story about kind of the nascent state of fascism and fascist organizing in the United States, and we also are seeing a huge uptick in like these anti-trans bills and transphobia, almost as kind of like this political cultural response from reactionaries. And I was wondering if like we talk a little bit about like kind of the importance of talking about this more radical militant history in the context of this huge kind of like conservative backlash to you know, LGBT and trans rights that we've been seeing over the last several months.
Yeah, I think it's complicated because I definitely don't want to dismiss the importance of like, I mean, the effect that anti-trans legislation or anti-gay legislation has on the material way that a lot of LGBTQ folks live their lives. But at the same time, we are coming at this from an anti-assimilationist perspective, you know, where it's not necessarily like legal equality that is what is, I'm trying to find a way to phrase this gently, you know, because I obviously don't want to like devalue, like I said, how much this sort of legislation can impact the material experiences of queer people, especially queer people who might live in less accepting communities or have other intersecting identities that put them at higher risk. But at the same time, I do feel like the conversation about, I feel like the conversation about like trans acceptance or queer acceptance has really become kind of a diversionary talking point that has done more to distract from what I was talking about previously with how queer liberation has to be intrinsically tied to other forms of abolition and anti-capitalist liberation. And right now, there seems to be in the zeitgeist just a lot of discussion about normalization, and I don't feel like normalization is the goal or is even necessarily politically expedient.
Yeah, you know,
it's kind of hard to care about what bathroom people are going to when we're in the middle of a pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
You know, like I don't really care. I could care less about if a kid's going to be playing basketball when I'm worried about, you know, that kid not having a home when they get home because of the eviction crisis that's going on. There are material well-being. There are material conditions that are affecting people not just people, not just the LGBT community, but all people in the proletariat. And there are, and the thing that you were saying, that uh, that things are being used commercially to make a profit, but also being used as a distraction. Like, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it really does. I think I want to thank you for really bringing up, like, there's some really interesting contradictions in there about how, like, one, we should under no means like depend on like this very like duplicitous capitalist state for liberation. There are some bad actors that try and like kind of use the state as a tool against the trans folks and LGBT folks, but like, yeah, again, it's kind of this, they're using it in the same way that they're using like Dr. Seuss and all this other nonsense. But it does also, it can have some like real effects on people's lives. So it is like a very important dialogue. And again, I would definitely prefer people to be more informed by the sort of radical politics than is it Blackwater or Northrop Grumman putting like a rainbow logo on their crap.
Oh God, yeah. No, fucking Raytheon updated their Twitter with the rainbow profile picture, and
I mean, you see, when you talk about the commercialization of identity politics, we discussed last week what the CIA and what the military was doing to recruit recruit new members. They're being a proud cisgendered Latino woman that's going to be helping to bomb and destroy Black and brown countries around the world. It's going to be a person that has two mothers and who can speak multiple languages, drone striking children. Yeah. Like, that's
like, all right, so let's reel back in just a little bit. And we're probably, I definitely like to dive a little bit deeper into some of these like kind of social, political stuff too. But also just want people like maybe tell folks a little bit more about like what kind of activities you got planned for the event, what to expect for folks down there, and kind of just the where, the what, and the when as well.
So we're going to be meeting at Arcadia Park at 8. And we're going to be hanging out at the park for a while, and then we're going to be moving downtown. We're going to be having a mobile dance party, and so we're going to be moving. We're going to head downtown, and we're going to march on Bell's specifically, because Bell's is one of the largest corporate sponsors of Pride events in Kalamazoo, and obviously, there are a lot of issues with substance abuse and substance dependency in the LGBT community, and corporations heavily target us as prime consumers. And so it's kind of fucked up that companies like Bell's have this vested interest in oh, I'm sorry. Am I allowed to swear? I swore. I'm sorry.
I'll edit it out for the radio. On the internet, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, and so we're going to be marching on Bell specifically, and we're just going to kind of do a loop around town and then head back to the park. And like I said, we're going to be doing a mobile dance party, so we'll have speakers set up, and we're going to be playing music, and we want it to be kind of like halfway between a march and a party,
Mm-hmm. I like that. I can't remember who said it. It was a revolutionary writer. It was like, if the revolution doesn't have dancing, I don't want to be a part of it.
Okay, I have to ask. Have you talked to, or are you putting information into your organization about how or who will be dealing with the anti-protesters that may come to the march, like how to conduct yourself, things of that nature?
Yeah, we've been discussing how to respond to like, potential police presence or police response. And we've also we're gonna have experienced safety people there who are going to be
Just want to make
keeping
sure everybody get home safe.
sort of
You know what I'm saying?
duplicity.
Right. Just want to make sure everybody get home safe.
Mhm.
You know.
And then I guess just real quick, if folks want to find out more about the events or maybe like some of the other organizing y'all do, how would they find that? Sorry.
So we have a Facebook page for the events. It is the People's Pride Queer and Trans Liberation Now is the name of the event. So if you just search that on Facebook, you should be able to find that. As for the other organizing that I'm involved in personally, like I said, I'm involved in our local chapter of Food Not Bombs. And we have events every Sunday in Arcadia Park at 4 p.m. that are public events that people are welcome to come to. And we have free vegan food that we distribute to the community. And then we also do deliveries on Wednesdays. And we're always looking for interested parties. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in getting involved with, feel free to come to one of our Sunday events and talk to us. We're not hard to miss, or we're hard to miss. We're set up in a big canopy, and yeah.
All right. Well, one, bless y'all do some really amazing work. Thank you for being out in the community and helping folks get fed and such. Before we kind of wrap up, I want to make sure, was there anything else that you really wanted to touch on that we didn't get around to, or maybe just like an important piece to the events that you wanted to touch on?
Honestly, I think this was pretty comprehensive. I think I said what I needed to say, and I'm afraid if I talk more, then I'll make a fool of myself.
We do that for about 2 hours at a clip. So me and
Facts.
Mark's pretty experienced making fools of ourselves.
Facts.
But thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for extending the invitation.
All right, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait. Again, folks listening at home, that's June 12th at 8 p.m. over at Arcadia Creek Festival site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.